Hello and welcome to a very special episode of SOFA SENSEI'S. You are, of course, joined by me, Kavan, and today we've got a very special guest, now retired professional boxer, Reiss Taylor. And I tell you what, this is the story of getting Reiss on. There is something about booking boxers that is just very, very easy. I won't lie to you. So I saw a post from Reiss less than a week ago to say he's decided to hang the gloves up. And from our perspective, that really made us interested. We wanted to say, you know what's going on? You've retired now, so what's next? But also, what are your reflections on your career? You know we love delving into the careers of boxers and getting an insight into their mindset, because there is definitely a few lessons in there for us all to learn. Contacted Reiss on Instagram. He said, yeah, I'm all in. Let's do it. And within a week, we're here, we're live, we're now. This is SOFA SENSEI'S on the akhi&saltfish digital network. Let's go. So, Reiss, thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it. Now, just before we started recording, I asked you, what should we call you? Should we call you Reiss? Should we call you Shoei? Shoei is your ring name, right?
Yeah.
And give us a bit of a backstory to Shoei. What does that mean?
It was basically when I was back in school, I was more obviously used to play football and stuff. I was at Villa from 8 till 16. And I think because it was quite out there with my football and everything, people just called me the showman. So then to shorten it, I went from the showman to Shoei. So I've literally had that name from school. And that's literally, and then it just stuck from there until now.
So I think it's fair to say then you've been quite an athlete throughout your whole life.
Yeah, literally.
What's that journey been like? Like, is training something that you've had to learn to love? Has it been something that's all you know? Yeah, talk us through that football career briefly.
Well, originally when I was like 7, 8, I did Muay Thai, which is Thai boxing, where you use your elbows, your knees, and etc. But then I fell in love with football as well. But then my mum says, I can't take you to football and Muay Thai, so you need to kind of, make a decision. I won a few titles, Muay Thai, the area and the English, but then I was playing football and then found out I was all right at that as well. Got spotted by Villa, and then I was there from 8 till 16.
Nice. And what was that experience like? I bet it was a experience that made you a man. I mean, those years from 8 to 16, you're in competition with other young children.
100%,
back and forth
100%.
training 3 times a week, I imagine. Yeah, what's that like?
Yeah, we used to train twice in the week, and then would play on the weekends. And some of the players who were still playing to this day, who I played with. So it's nice to see some of them still, making headlines and doing good stuff.
What was that? What happened at 16 that meant it couldn't be the career?
To be honest, literally at 16, I got released. Quite a lot of us got released, and then they kept a few on. That's the thing with the academy game. Me personally, I don't think I was any less than the players that they kept on. But I think it was more preference, if I'm being honest, which is, life in itself. So it wasn't nothing. It was literally, I got released at 16. Yeah, it was nothing else. And then I went to a few other teams, and then that's when I kind of, after a few years, fell out of love with football, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So in between this time now, you're 16, you've been dropped from Aston Villa. What's going through your mind in terms of what's next? Is it, around that time as well, you would have got your GCSEs. So is it a matter of, okay, I'm going to go get a job? Is it a matter of, I want to still do sport? What's going through your mind at this time?
Great question. My thing then was still trying to find a football team, but then I went to college as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was literally college and still trying to make something of myself in football. And then when I went to college, I seen some of the players that I was at Villa with go to the college, because that's what they did. If you was in the academy, they still made some of them go to college. So what's the chances of that?
Is that to like keep you on the straight and narrow? Like if football doesn't work out for you, you still got these qualifications in your back pocket?
Definitely was to still trying to keep myself focused, if that makes sense, 100%.
Definitely. Okay, so boxing. You started boxing at 20 years old. So between then, there's that 4-year gap, in your life. But then, of course, you've got that Muay Thai background. So when you're 20 years old now and you're starting boxing, is that much of a transition? Or was it something that felt natural due to that Muay Thai background?
Oh, Obviously, boxing's different because you can only use your hands. But I think because I did new time football before, that focus and determination, it wasn't much different. But obviously, it was the transition of having to just use your hands as opposed to your knees and your elbows and whatnot. But that determination to succeed was still there. So you know what I mean? It was still there. People think it was late, but I just thought I need to do something else and make something of myself within sports.
So up until that point, had you been in a boxing gym or not? So what was that first time, like 20 years old, you're in a boxing gym? Boxing gyms are intimidating, man. So what was it like?
Oh, it was nice. It was interesting. It was a little bit nerve-wracking because it's like it's all new, if that makes sense. And then the owner of the gym was nice, but then one of the coaches, when I asked him is there space on the gym in the squad, he told me no. So it was a little bit of a wake-up call, as if to say, oh, so not every trainer or whatever's going to take you on or try and give you an opportunity. So it was a bit of a wake-up call as well, to be honest.
That's the first we've heard of that, you know. So, like, can you tell us a little bit more about that? So,
yeah, I said to the coach, is there any space on the squad? He didn't even say, let's see how you get on, and then maybe we'll give you an opportunity. He just said, I can remember it like the other day. He just said no. I was like, okay. Not even let me see how you get on and, you know, take it from there. So it was a bit of, so there's favoritism. You don't even want to give me an opportunity. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a wake-up call, to be honest.
So, okay, at that point now, you've gone into that first gym. There's no space in the squad. But obviously you persevere because we're here 12 years later talking about what's been, you know, a career, what's seen you box on TV. You box so many people as they're beginning their careers. So
absolutely,
things happen for you. What was that first moment like then when you got a gym now that you train at consistently and you're starting to get the fights in? Talk us through that period of time.
In regards to amateur, we go with amateur. It felt nice to feel, wanted and part of something as well. To feel part of something and think, you know what, I can make something of myself. Do you know what I mean? The first proper one was at a gym called Windmill. Have you heard of Smevik?
Yeah, I was there yesterday actually.
Oh wow, yeah.
Madness.
So shout out to that gym, the coach there that gave me my first opportunity. So it was nice to be somewhere where, you know, give me an opportunity to better myself. So and feel wanted, if that makes sense.
So when you know, a few times during this conversation already, you've mentioned about wanting to make something of yourself. And just before we get into your 12-year career, looking back now, do you feel like you've achieved that?
Yeah, and the reason why I would say that is because really not many people, you know, start boxing so late. And I know some people who were terrific amateurs and have never turned pro.
Yeah.
I've never turned pro. So to me, I've made something of myself in such a short time span. And sometimes I think, should I have started it earlier? But your journey is your journey, isn't it?
And I think, you know what? People always underestimate how hard it is. We see Anthony Ogogo, a man who achieved a bronze at the Olympics in 2008, I think. 2008. And he turned pro and he made it to about, I want to say 6 fights, if that, because he damaged his eye. Career was over. So for you to go ahead, have a career of, was it 33 fights you had, something like that? 25 fights. So 25 fights over the course of that time span is mental. A lot of people don't make it that far, so you should be proud of yourself. You did make something of yourself.
Thank you, man.
And you know what? I think as well, one thing I want to address as well is that you fought a friend of the show. So a friend of the show, if anyone doesn't know, is Nico Michael. He's featured on, I think, 3-4 episodes already with us. So shout out Nico. And you was his first opponent ever in the pro ranks. And what I noticed right away is your style was a challenge. It
Awkward,
presented, it presented something for him to say, all right, this isn't no walk in the park. This isn't no walkover job. I've actually got to put the work in here. And to Nico's credit, he did. But to your credit as well, you made it a challenge. And that instantly made us think, okay, who is this guy? Let's follow his journey. And we did that. But one thing I did when I was researching you is we realized you're the shortest pro in the UK. Now, again, I don't want to skip over that point because that's major. When you're going into these boxing gyms and just by your very style, your speed, your quickness, your elusiveness, your footwork, and then your stature as well, people aren't used to training with that. So then when you're coming in there, I noticed you kept catching Nico with overhands. You kept catching Nico overhands, and it's like, of course Nico wouldn't have been able to train with this style in mind because you can't prep for it. So I think you had a what can I call it? I want to say one of Thanos's, the crystals that he has, Thanos's stones. Because of all that packaged together, people can't train for a style like yours. So you're going to make it a difficult fight, whether win or lose. You're going to make it difficult. You're not going to be walked over. And I can see that in your record, you've been stopped twice. So over the course of 25 fights, that's a great record. Do you know what I'm saying?
Bro.
So let's talk about, okay, so your amateur record in total, how did you get on in the
I only
archers?
had 12 fights, yeah. 12.
And did they teach you anything? Was it a matter of, was you itching to go pro during these 12 fights, or was it a learning process?
I just thought I won the nationals, and then the next year I lost in the pre-quarterfinals in Liverpool. So then I just thought, there's no head. They're saying no head guards anymore.
Okay.
So I thought, what's the point in me continuing to fight amateur with no head guards when I can get paid for it?
Yeah.
So that was the reason I said, let's sack this. I might as well turn pro. If I'm going to get hit in the head, I might as well turn pro and do it.
So turning pro, what was the vision at this point? Was turning pro wanting to be an area champion? Was turning pro wanting to remain undefeated? What was the vision?
At the time, it was wanting to win titles, but then I realized, as you said previously, about ticket sales and whatnot. And in my opinion, I don't think, like, Birmingham's just not, when it comes to boxing, even though we're the second biggest city, boxing in Birmingham, in my opinion, is not as big as it should or could be. Yeah,
I'm trying to think of some big names from Birmingham. Right now, you've obviously got Ben Whittaker.
Shaq.
Yeah, of course. There's that guy. Who's the guy? He runs like the Kronk Birmingham gym. There's a Kronk shop in next to the Bullring. I can't remember his name now. Wayne. Yes. So he is a big name, but that's a big name from 10, 20 years ago. Yeah. So, yeah, Birmingham is interesting, actually. It hasn't produced major boxing. I feel like I'm going to listen to this back and I'm going to think of a name. But off the top of my head, boxing hasn't produced yet major stars, major names from the UK. It's like music, though. It's like music. Music's London-centric. Do you know what I'm saying? It's only now different pockets of the Midlands, etc., are breaking out and producing their own stars. But yeah, boxing, like music, is very London-centric in the UK. GB set up, centered around those London gyms, obviously based in Sheffield, but they go to these London gyms, Dale Youth, Finchley ABC, all these other gyms as well to look for talent. So
you've got Sol as well. Sol from Birmingham.
Who's that?
Solomon Dackers. He's a
yeah. Yes, I know. He's signed to Matchroom, isn't he? Yeah,
Tyler Denny, but he's just outside of Birmingham.
Yeah. Okay, Tyler. He's on the up.
Boxer.
Yeah. He's fought. No, he hasn't fought. He might fight Kieran Conway for some version. Has he got an English title right now?
English champ. Yep.
Yeah. So I think they're talking about him fighting Kieran Conway for that title. So that'd be an interesting fight. Yeah, man. Okay, so Birmingham is on the up. I think Ben Whittaker could be a flag bearer for Birmingham. So definitely looking out for that one. But like you say, if it's not a hub for boxing, your chances of being a ticket seller and therefore attracting one of the big promoters is slim. So at what point then, because going through your record, the first 5 fights are mixtures between wins and losses.
Yes.
So after that, there seems to be a trend of losses, which would point me towards a journeyman sort of record, right? At what point does that become a decision? Is it ever a decision? Is it the way things work? Is it a money? Talk us through that.
It got to a stage where I said, I'm not gonna be asking people and keep chasing people down to buy tickets. And I made, as you said, I made the conscious decision that I'm just gonna go on the road and be a road warrior and just fight people
Yeah.
and get my money. Yeah. So that was when, as you saw, the transition in the record. Even though it was a few fights where I thought I could have got the win. There's some fighters who have fought me and have no longer boxed again.
Yeah.
If you check their some people have fought, they haven't boxed again after me. So yeah, it was that. And obviously I know I'm going to make money and I haven't got to worry about selling tickets to make money.
So, right, there's so many things I want to get into now because we haven't had a journeyman on the show yet. And
Okay.
I think this is such a taboo side of boxing, but you're needed to progress the careers of people who we now know, who we now see on the SOFA Senseis. So, that conscious decision, who are you talking to? Is it a manager? Are you saying to a manager now, yeah, do you know what? I think I want to be a road warrior and I want to, I want to make that come up my career. Who are you talking to?
It wasn't, it wasn't even a long conversation. It was more just of, whoever you got for me, I'll go and fight them.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. Whoever you've got, let me know. I'll make my way and let's go.
So what sort of weights are you fighting at? Is it one weight? Is it multiple weights?
8 stone 6.
Okay.
So that's like, 8'6". So that's like, what, 54 kg.
Okay. And now, when we're talking about I'll fight anyone, there's certain things you've got to bear in mind, isn't there? So you can't get stopped in an ideal world because getting stopped means you're revoked for
28 days.
28
suspension.
days. Okay. So if you want to fight 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row, getting stopped is not an option. So what's that look like in real life? Are you not taking risks? Are you taking calculated risks? Are you keeping your distance? Is that affecting the way you're training? Talk us through that.
Train hard still, but in the ring, in and out, so not getting hit. You know, if you're getting frustrated, tie him up, throw a few shots, look smooth, don't take punishment.
Okay.
In and out. If I can catch him, catch him. Otherwise, in and out, staying sharp. Yeah, that was my main thing, especially if I know I've got another fight in a week or two. It's all about, not getting hit and not taking unnecessary punishment.
Now, can I keep it real and ask you a question that I don't know what the answer is going to be? But are you dumbing down your skills so that the other person wins, or is this a real fight?
I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say dumbing down my skills as such. I'd say sometimes to be a road warrior, you probably have to be a little bit more skillful, because if you know you've got another fight 3-4 months from then you can afford to take more risks. So I'd say you probably have to be a little bit more cute, if that makes sense. Be a bit more cute, but at the same time, not go as gung-ho. So you probably, as a road warrior, probably got to be a little bit more clever, because you don't want to take that punishment as well. So in the back of your mind, I'm fighting Saturday. I've got another fight the following Saturday. So how can I get through this without being stopped? So I'd say you have to be a little bit, not so much dumbing down, just a little bit more clever and not take as much risks.
Bro, I love the answer, I love that answer, because this is the sort of discourse I see online. I say, I see people say, journeymen are no good, and da-da-da-da-da. But
without them, there's no progression.
Exactly. Without them, there's no progression, and you hit the nail on the head in the sense that they have to be very skilled in order to stay in the game, and in order to keep someone going through the game and teach them the little things. You've definitely taught a few fighters, okay, you're not going to land on me as easy as you thought you would, so what are you going to do about that? How are you still going to win this fight? And that's a lesson that boxers need to learn. Okay, you're not going to get me out of here in the first round, so what's your gas tank like? Gas tank check. What are we going to do about that? Do you know what I'm saying? And particularly someone with your style and stature as well. Oh, you haven't sparred anyone like me before? Well, surprise, surprise, it's fight now. What are you going to do about it? And those are the sort of questions we've got to ask pros, so that when they do go up to the championship levels, they're tested, they're ready, and they're resilient enough to go through it. And
Absolutely.
That's what I think is overlooked when it comes to journeyman. So I'm really glad you said that answer. So thank you for that one. I appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Okay. So what is your team setup like? Because obviously from a Sofa Sensei's point of view, we see these big fighters, we see their massive camps, we see their massive teams, and they go away with their camps for maybe 8 weeks at a time. When you're on the road every week, is your team the same? Do you have the same shorts? All these little details, are they the same, or do you have a setup that, you know, changes all the time?
A few shorts. Go there usually with either my coach or my manager, and then somebody else will be in the sec. And then if there's some other road warriors with us in the changing room or coming up with us, we'll go together. And then somebody else to come in the corner will be a second, so it could be somebody random. Whoever's already at the show, who's a cornerman as well or a second, will join me and my coach as a second. But as a road warrior, there's no entourage, there's no big crowds around us coming up with us. It's just us, and if we're lucky, maybe one person coming to support or whatever if it's local. Yeah, but otherwise we just do our own thing, really. Come with our coach, and then have a second in our corner, fight, collect our money, leave and go home.
So when you're that person then who is the opponent effectively, and you've maybe got one person in the crowd if it is a local show, does it get lonely? Or
No, because like for instance the fight with Nico, even though his crowd were cheering for him, it spurred me on.
Right.
So I use his crowd as my crowd.
Wicked. So you're going off the energy anyway, regardless.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's for him or it's for me. It's in the building. So do you know what I mean? So if they're booing, that's good. That fuels me more. Yeah.
Energy, yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the shows you've been on then. Obviously, the show we're talking about took place, I want to say, in November. And that was a small hall show. But you've been on some big shows as well. Talk us through some of those and what are they like? Is there any differences?
Big shows. Well, Your Call, for instance, even though Your Call is you would class as, let's say, a small show or whatever, but being at Your Call, I'd say out of all the places I've probably boxed, there's something special about that place. I don't know if it's the history behind it and the amount of people that have been there, but if you go, anybody that's been Your Call will understand where I'm coming from. There's something, special about that place. I'd say that place stands out for me the most, to be honest.
So again, when you're talking about all that history that takes place at Your Call, and you're talking about wanting to make a name for yourself, you've boxed at Your Call along with some of the legends of the sport.
Absolutely.
Not everyone can say that. Do you know what I'm saying? And these are the sort of things where, again, I think we all have different reward systems, man. We all have different checkpoints to make in our lives. Like, I'm sure there'd have been so many reasons to not go into boxing, to not do it. You alluded to it sometime in your retirement statement. You mentioned it's time to hang up the gloves to give your parents some rest after 12 years of worrying and telling them you're going to hang them up one day. Right? Yeah. So you've achieved all of that. And again, I've been guilty of it myself, right? We've watched a fighter lose and we've thought, I think AJ or Dylan White lost a year ago today, actually. When we're recording this, it's the 23rd of April, 2023. Dylan White lost a year ago to Tyson Fury. And we watched that fight, I think, live. And we were just disappointed in Dylan. And on the podcast, we just said, Dylan, you didn't even show up. You came out at Southpaw. You know what people say when they're disappointed in a fighter.
Yep.
But then when we're sitting here and we're having these sorts of conversations, I really struggle to be disappointed in fighters because, you had, like you say, 25 fights. But then you got Lewis Van Pooch, who has like hundreds of fights.
Poochie.
Yeah. Was that ever on the cards for you, doing hundreds of fights as a journeyman?
I thought about it, but then I thought, do you know what? Like, I'll be real with you. It gets to a point when you haven't got when your family's not really, you haven't got a boxing family, and then it's that motivation and that hunger. When you've eaten already, it's the same as food. Once you've eaten already, how much more hunger have you got for it? I love boxing, but I mean the hunger to continue to make the weight, which is a job in itself, to motivate myself, go running and all of that, and fight. Do you know what I mean? It was motivation to carry on.
So being a road warrior then, and having to make weight consistently, frequently, what's that like? You know, how does that affect your day-to-day life? Can you go out with family? Are you holding back? Are you training a lot?
I was fortunate that I could go, let's say I've got a fight on Saturday, I could afford to make weight from the Monday. I could make weight the week of the fight, but then it's the mental thing of doing that, and then you say another week or two, you've got to do it again. So it wasn't really difficult. It was more of a mentally having to make the weight. And then when you have to do it on your own and you haven't got nobody beside you, which is cool. I know boxing's a lonely sport as it is, but when you haven't got people around you to always push you, the motivation goes, doesn't it?
And what could you call on to get that motivation back?
Now I'm content at the minute, so I don't think it'd have to be like some serious financial gain and something where, you know, but for now I'm content, and I feel now it's about giving back.
Okay. Just before we get into what's next then, you mentioned food, you mentioned making weight, and in my research, I realised you're a plant-based fighter as well.
Yeah.
Is that still the case?
Yeah, I still haven't eaten meat in years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What's that like? And was that like a spiritual thing or?
It was a spiritual thing, and it was more so conscious, and it didn't feel right to continue eating animals, so I just stopped for a conscious thing, to be honest.
Was it a difficult journey?
Not really, you know. I mean, nah. The fish was a little bit hard, but then once I come off that, it was all right. It wasn't, for some reason, I didn't really find it that difficult.
And as a fighter, as someone who's been an athlete since they were very, very young, did you notice any positive or negative changes in your energy?
More of a conscious mind. I feel at times like we are what we eat. So sometimes what you eat can make you think more clearly and differently and more positively. In my opinion, some people might not agree with that, but I think what you eat helps the way you think and how you move throughout life.
Well, I think there is evidence to suggest that our guts are intrinsically linked to our minds and the way we feel and the decisions that we make. So I think, if your gut is healthy, and if your gut is healthy via a plant-based diet, then I have no reason to doubt you, man. And neither should the listeners, just to make that one clear as well. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of your current career, or former career rather, who is the best person you fought?
Oh.
Over all those fights, who was the best?
Oh my gosh, I should have expected this question. Who is the best I've fought? Oh, do you know what? There's some good fighters on my resume that I've fought, you know. My first fight was very, very tough, but that was when I got that phone call on the Tuesday and fought him on the Saturday. That was Casey Kademi. You know what? It'd probably have to be the guy that stopped me on it, Aiden, the Somalian that stopped me, the last person to stop me on the Frank Warren show. Very sharp. Adnan Mohammed.
Oh, yeah.
It'd probably have to be him for his spiteful, very sharp, quite spiteful. I didn't really feel that my best at that fight. I felt I was a little bit under the weather, but through sharpness and skills, I'd probably have to say he's probably the most efficient that I've boxed so far.
And we talk about big fighters, the Anthony Joshuas, the Tyson Furies, etc., and they've got 3-month-long camps. And you mentioned there, your first fight, you're getting a call on a Tuesday for a fight on a
Saturday.
What is the longest camp you've ever had, just out of interest?
Probably, you know what? I have had a month or I've had like a good month before, a month or two before. So I'm not, yeah. So I'm not gonna say that I haven't had times where I've had ample amount of time.
Mm.
Yeah. So I'd say a good month or two, month and a half. Yeah. Never 12-week camp though.
Listen, it sounds like a different echelon to be doing 12 week camps. And yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I know where they get the money from, right? These guys are in a different sponsors, all sorts of things. But it's mad when you think about it. Taking yourself away from the world for 12 weeks to practice to fight one person. It's
Crazy.
that mindset as well. You have to say, I'm going to fight this person, and I'm going to be the most fine-tuned version of me to fight them. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
The next thing I want to ask you about is just before we get on to what's next, and I'm really excited about what's next for you. Damage. Is that something that crosses your mind at all?
100%. 100%. Because I thought to myself, okay, I've never had haven't got a broken nose. The only time I ever had a black eye was in the amateurs when it was a clash of heads. Walk away with all my faculties now. And that definitely crossed my mind because I thought, you ever heard of the saying, quit while you're ahead?
Yes.
So something says, don't get retired, retire on my terms. So 100% crossed my mind that says, you haven't had damage, you haven't been severely hurt, quit while you're ahead, man.
Do you know
that
what?
was definitely played a part.
I've got to give you a round of applause there, because when we talk about boxing and you say you haven't had a broken nose, that is mental. That is mental. To only have a black eye from the amateurs for a clash of heads is crazy. And it's testament to that skill we touched on earlier. Not getting hit is the point of boxing. And we see styles, even at the weekend, there was a couple styles who their whole game is, well, this week we saw Alan Babic get stopped in the first round because his whole style is, his whole style is being a savage, kill or be killed. And the week before we saw Joe Joyce fight Zhang, and his defense is his face, and it didn't stand up to Zhang's power. That is craziness. So for you to go through a whole career and retire at the age of 32 and come out with your faculties intact is a blessing in and of itself. So well done.
Thank you, sir.
And the final thing we want to talk to you about is what's next. Because when you've been an athlete for so long, that doesn't leave you. And you're not an old man. You're not an old retired man. You've still got a whole life ahead of you. So what is next? Tell us all about that.
Wow. Thankfully, I already had something lined up before retiring. So I made the conscious decision to retire before I started my job. So I'm already helping people who are on the route to getting kicked out of school or being kicked out of school. So I'm a mentor to them. And we also do boxing coaching. So literally killing two birds with one stone. So that's already what I'm doing, mentoring and helping keep them disciplined so they don't go on the wrong path.
Brilliant, man. And particularly in some of these big cities as well, like Birmingham, that is a blessing in and of itself to be supporting the youngsters and giving back to the community. When you talk about keeping them on the straight and narrow, being a mentor, is that ever a crossroads you've been at in terms of, I've got to make the right decision right now because things could easily go left?
100%. Because I can relate, because when I was in school, I don't think being in a classroom, it wasn't that kind of style was for me. Whereas if I'll be honest, I wish what I do now, I wish when I was their age, I had that.
Right.
Sometimes I think you're blessed to be able to come, do a little bit of maths and English, and then come and then do boxing training with us. Blessing, mate. So that's why I can relate, because I wasn't the best in school, and it didn't really suit me to be in the class all the time.
So if I can ask you to do two things now. Firstly, give a piece of advice to a young up-and-coming boxer right now. And they may have started late. They may have had a short amateur career. What would your piece of advice be to them?
Don't let anybody try and steer you off your path. Yeah, don't let anyone try and steer you off your path, and stay disciplined.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And finally, you've wrapped up a career. Okay? 25 plus fights, amateur career, shortest pro in the UK. All these things are massive things to say, yeah, you know what? Well done me. But the question is, what thing are you most proud of about your career?
Going out on my own terms. Going out on my own terms and defying the odds, man. Defying the odds, man.
I really appreciate that.
Them two things.
Reiss Taylor, thank you so much for joining me on Sofa Senseis.
Thank you for having me.
This is the akhi&saltfish Digital Network. You've been joined by me, Kavan, and Reiss Shoei Taylor. If you enjoyed that, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at SOFA SENSEI'S, on Twitter, TikTok at akhi&saltfish akhi&saltfish. If you want to email us, email akhi&saltfish@gmail.com. Please drop us a comment or a question. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with some friends, because I don't know about you, but for me, it's been really enlightening to have an inside view on what it's like to be on the other side of the ring. Okay, because we hear from all the A sides, if you will, but there is a whole industry behind your favorite fighters getting to where they are. And today we've had a fantastic insight into that industry. So join me in wishing Reiss a very happy, healthy, and prosperous retirement as he goes on to inspire the next generation of youngsters in the UK. Reiss, just let them know where they can find you on social media so they can keep up with your journey.
You can find me at Joshua the General, or Joshua _ the boxing coach as well, because I also do the boxing coaching in my spare time as well to help people as well. So yeah, follow the journey, man.
Appreciate that. Link up with him and make sure you follow his journey, because there's so much more to come. He's only 32 and he's got a whole life ahead of him. So we are ever grateful for your time. Thank you very much. And don't forget to stay tuned for this time next week. We get to know Reiss a little bit more and ask him our signature 7 questions. See you then. Take care.